welcome to Get Up and Scale, Ryan Lloyd. We're happy to have you here.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Thanks for having me. I really like you guys' intro song, by the way. Is that you?
Yeah.
Is that you, Evan? I like it.
You want to do it live right now?
I mean,
No,
Yeah.
we can pass.
I'll do the beatboxing.
yeah.
Get Up and Scale.
No, but it's good, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. We decided to, I used to be a rapper, so we decided to throw that into the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's our little hype song.
Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, man, thanks for coming. Tell us about yourself. What is your business?
Yeah.
And then we'll get into it.
Yeah,
This case, businesses.
Businesses.
Yeah.
What are your businesses? Yeah.
well, we have a few. My name's Ryan Lloyd. I own the Milwaukee Pedal Tavern and the Nashville Pedal Tavern. We have party boats in Milwaukee called the Pedal Tavern. We rent Duffy boats in Milwaukee, Cleveland, and also in Minneapolis where I live. And then I feel like I'm forgetting something.
What about the event space? So,
Yeah, we bought a building in Milwaukee when we expanded our business, but I don't really operate that.
Yeah.
That's more of a Derek thing.
Got it.
Cool.
Got it.
Cool.
Yeah.
And when did all of that start? Or where and when did all of that start?
Yeah. So in 2009, I was walking out of my friend's house there, and we were going to brunch, and I saw a pedal pub roll by in Minneapolis, and I was like, oh my God, that would crush in my hometown, Milwaukee. And I was a salesperson, so I'd been meeting with small business owners all day, and I realized like a couple years into the job, I'm sitting on the wrong side of the table. Like these guys are in jeans, t-shirts, kind of dressed like we are right now. Sometimes they'd offer me a beer at like 1 o'clock when I'd walk in, or be like, hey, you got your golf clubs? You want to golf today? And I was like, dude, my job needs to be this job,
Yeah.
So I started saving up money, and I was looking at a bunch of different franchise concepts. And so when I saw that thing, I was like, that's an interesting business. So I called up the guys in Minneapolis, Eric and Al, and he invited me to lunch. And, it's 2009, so like this is pre-online booking software by a couple years ago. And so he's sitting there, and he's got the calendar open, and I'm looking at it, and while he's talking to me, I'm counting how many reservations he had on his calendar. I remember it was June. It's the beginning of June, and he had 100 reservations on there.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's like 40 grand in revenue right there. And I was like, hey, so like that calendar's pretty full, man. And he's like, oh, dude, we'll get way more bookings. A lot of them come in like the day before. And I was like, you'll get more than that? He's like, yeah, probably like 50% more. And I was like, sold, dude. Like I'm in, right? So I had $10,000 saved up in my employee stock plan, and I built out an Excel spreadsheet, and I was like, I need $37,500. He gave me the price of the bike, insurance, all this stuff. I'm like, where am I going to get $27,500? And so I asked my dad. I was like, hey, I got this business idea. What do you think? You want me some cash? And he was like, you got a good job. You're insane.
Yeah.
The city of Milwaukee does not want you to bring a bicycle that's a bar on wheels, like driving around. Yeah. And so I was like, no, he's wrong. So like, I was telling like a coworker of mine about it, and he was like, well, he's like, if you need money quick, he's like, what I'm doing in the stock market is I don't think the bank stocks can collapse. He's like, I think the government's going to bail them out. So I took all $10,000 and I put half on Bank of America and half on Wells Fargo.
Whoa.
And, yeah, and 6 weeks later I had $19,000.
Holy crap.
And I called up the dude, Eric, and I was like, hey man, that bike you said you'd sell me for like 27 grand? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what if I give you $10,000 today, and I give you 2 more payments of $10,000, and if I miss any payment, you take the bike back? And he was like, deal, dude. And so that's how I started a business with my employee stock plan. And I showed it to Derek, and he was on board with it, and he had $1,000, and we were like 26, and so that's how it started, man. Like, I would answer every phone call. Derek would run every tour, and it was just me and him, for a whole year with no employees. And then I was showing one of my clients what I was up to, and that was Pete's dad, and that's how I met Pete. And then we decided to open Nashville.
He kind of said the same thing. He was just like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. And then it was funny because Groupon had just come out in Milwaukee. Like, it's so funny to think back then. Like, like that was like a new software.
It was exciting.
Yeah. And Pete was with me the day that the Groupon went live.
Yeah, they're based in Chicago. They're like Midwestern.
Yeah. And the phone, it must have rung over 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And like, I was taking deals. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but I was taking deals over the phone. I was like, I'll give you that rate. Like, and it was just like, boom. And Pete was like, his mouth was like on the floor. He was like,
yeah.
oh my God, I cannot wait to open this business in Nashville. You know, like we're going to crush.
Yeah.
And, you know, actually Nashville was slow, like, which is crazy because of how
it wasn't what
got.
it is today.
Right. But Nashville wasn't that city either at the time.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember when we went down there was still horse and carriages on Broadway Street, you know, like it was a different town for sure.
What was the hardest part in those early days about growing the business? Because like it seems like you got the idea of I want to grow, like I'm going to open, but I also want to expand and do other stuff.
I think
how did you pull that off?
I think the most frustrating thing initially was like people would call you and be like, hey, I just saw your bike roll by. They're like, can we do that tour? And we're like, oh, we're sold out. And then they're like, dang, we've been in town for like 4 days. And it's like, oh man, we didn't have any bookings yesterday. You know, like just like that, and that happened every day. You know, like somebody would call and be like, they wanted to physically hand us money, but we didn't have enough lead time for them to see us. And so I got obsessed with like, how can we get online? Like if you Google things to do in Milwaukee, things to do in Nashville. And at the time, and I'm sure it's still there, TripAdvisor was like the king, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just like, all right, we got to just smoke TripAdvisor reviews. Like that's got to be our focus so that we have more like presence online. And for Derek and I, it was a huge milestone when because Derek and I, we became buddies because we worked at the Milwaukee Zoo together in high school. And when we passed the Milwaukee Zoo on TripAdvisor for like the number one thing, the outdoor activity, like that was like
a realization.
For real. Like I was like, wow, we are actually a relevant business. Like, can you believe we just passed our former employer? Like,
that's cool.
So, yeah.
How long did that take to get to that point?
It was a while, like probably like a couple of years, but like that TripAdvisor algorithm, I don't know if it's still the same, but it was all about recency of reviews. We figured out it was like if you consistently get them, they'll pop, because you could be like, you could have 100 reviews and show up in front of somebody that had like 2,000. You know?
Yeah, if yours were like more relevant. Yeah, I think the early days for me, there was like this moment, you know, like everyone thinks it's this silly thing. Yeah. Right, essentially. They look at it like, oh, this is like a little side project.
Yeah. Right? And I thought it was going to be when I started.
Yeah, same here. I remember the moment for me, like in the party bike business in particular, when it really popped was when I went to get a haircut. And this was like just a year after the business. Yeah. It's like my hairstylist knew all about the business. Yeah. Done it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I noticed everywhere I go, everyone knew about it. Yeah. And I suddenly realized like, this is like a real business that's making money. Yeah. You know, like even in the first year, it was still small, but it was like everyone was so excited about it. And it blew my mind that I could talk to someone I didn't know and they would know exactly what my business was.
Totally. Yeah. I remember I was like eating at a restaurant in Chicago at a bar, and the bartender was like, where are you from? I'm like, Milwaukee. He's like, dude, I just went up there last weekend. We did the coolest thing ever. Yeah. And he was like, basically, he was like, we run this thing. It was like a bar-shaped bicycle. And I was like, I'm not going to tell him, but this is awesome. Yeah. You know, like hearing this dude all hyped about it. Yeah.
That's cool. You should have like secret shopped him. Like, oh, what could they have done better?
Oh, yeah. Any suggestions?
I know that order.
Yeah. He's a great guy. He's handsome. Yeah. I think that's for dudes, but
you should go leave a review right now if you haven't yet, actually, you know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's been the hardest part about like opening new cities, scaling, buying more, you know, bikes? Like what's been the hardest part about
I think it's physically hard to open a location that you're not in. Yeah. And so I think with Nashville, like when we first opened Nashville, we had some operators down there that they were okay. But when Angie and Brian moved down there and took it over, it was like boom. It was like gasoline on the fire. They were awesome. People. It is. So I honestly think it's that. Like it's like you have to have a solid operator in the spot that actually cares. Like an employee is not going to care as much as an owner, obviously. So I would say that's the hardest part.
Do you give your operators equity?
Yeah.
Every time?
Well, the situation in Nashville, for example, that because that's the only market that.
Because you went to other markets, didn't you? You were in Baltimore, you were in Omaha.
That's right.
Like, I know you were like really trying to spread your wings. Dude, but I'm like, what happened with that?
I would have forgotten about that. It's so long ago.
Forgot you own these businesses.
Like I just haven't thought of that in so long. But
because you were like trying to go in a lot of places. I feel like I kept hearing Ryan Lloyd's name. I'd call people, talk to him, be like, "Oh, Lloyd owns part of that." I'd be like, "What? What's he doing in Baltimore?" Yeah,
no, that was a girl. That was a girl we went to high school with. She like called us up. She's like, "Hey, I saw what you guys are doing in Milwaukee. We'd like to do Baltimore." I'm like, we'll kick you $10,000. Like, let us buy part of it.
Yeah.
You know?
So you were just kind of like partnering with people
and then showing them like how to do it. And kind of explaining everything.
And then eventually you would get out of it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like. That one, for example, like Baltimore, and it just
I ended up owning that city.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I was like the same one. I was like the last owner. No, there was like 2 or 3 different owners in between.
Oh, really?
Just fun fact. I was like the last successor of that. Before, unfortunately, COVID kind of killed that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like Omaha, it was like my buddy, he owned a restaurant down there, and he was like, we should do it at my restaurant. I was like, cool, I'll show you how to do it. And then those guys ended up starting the game show, Battle Room.
That's right.
Those dudes did. So they got the itch of like the tourism thing.
Yeah. So is it a franchise or
no?
It was just kind of like people wanted to do it.
Yeah.
You kind of were the franchisor.
I mean, kind of. I guess it was more like we owned a little piece of it and we'd help them start it.
Okay.
And then that's kind of how we did it with those. But I mean, how you guys do it is like the way to do it. I mean, you guys have like an actual franchise and a system, and
yeah, it helps because like just the process of franchising, they ask you so many questions of like, why do you do it this way as you're building your operations manual, which you have to have. Like normal businesses probably don't have an operations manual, especially in the tourism world.
Right.
You know, so like even just doing that exercise makes you think of like, why am I doing it this way or that way, or you know, so that made me more efficient just turning the business into a franchise. But then having to replicate it 30 times, you know, is like you really get efficient on like, this is not a good process, or like, we need to do more of this, you know. So it's definitely been helpful.
Dude, your story is awesome, man, and it's so great about this industry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I was talking to somebody about this last night. Like, you know, I have kids, and if you ask a really little kid what they want to be when they grow up, it's like, I want to be a pro athlete, I want to be a cop, I want to be a fireman. When you ask a teenager, it's what their hobbies are. They want to be like a pro snowboarder. And like, I think all of us, our kid version of ourselves, would be pumped at what we do. You know, like this is a fun job.
My 4-year-old like is obsessed with trolley putt.
Is it?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I asked him what he wants to do when he grows up, he says trolley putt.
Yeah,
so that's awesome. Cool. Even a 4-year-old gets it that this is fun.
Yeah, which is grerait. I mean, we're very fortunate that we have such fun jobs.
I'm curious what your goal is. Like, you know, you've had this long 14-year business career. Your businesses have been very successful. Yeah, like they're well known for like having. Well, where are you trying to get to? Like, what's your end goal here with
you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't think, you know, we almost sold right before COVID. We had like a deal to sell Nashville.
I remember that.
And it fell through during COVID. And so I have thought about selling the businesses, and I think at some point I probably will. But I mean, I don't know. They're fun right now.
Do you want to do more concepts? Like, do you want to keep finding like new things and
I think
that itch?
Yeah, because there's something exciting about it, right? It's like what do they call it? Itchy foot syndrome, like most entrepreneurs have. Like we constantly
shiny objects.
Like we see something and we want to do it. You know, especially when you come here. Talk to all
everyone says that we all like are like the dog with the squirrel. Constantly like the squirrel.
You know? Especially here. Like, you start like talking to people and you're like doing this.
You get 5 guys in a room and there's like 20 business ideas. Most of them suck.
We'll have to have a podcast sometime where we just riff on those ideas.
Like, what if you do this?
Someone out there.
But then you think about the work involved, because now that we know what we're doing, we know how hard it is.
I know. And we don't have the same energy that we had when we were like younger either. You know?
Like, is there anything? Are you still passionate about it? Like, do you feel a little jaded, a little cynical about the tours and everything? Like, how do you get that spark back? Like, that's a common topic for us old timers.
I would say I definitely like.
40-year-olds like me.
Yeah, me too, man. I definitely like certain products that we have better. That's what you mean. Like, I really like our Duffy boats. Like, I think they're like the perfect tourism product. They're like cool looking. They're eco-friendly. I don't think they'll like fat out. You know what I mean? Because they're like kind of like a classic style to them. So, but yes, I definitely prefer certain businesses over the other.
You've probably done 100 party bike tours, 1,000.
Dude, it's you know what's weird? I've done a Pedal Tavern so few times in my life.
Really?
Like
that's surprising. Like even as a customer or as like the guide or either.
As a customer. Like probably less than 10 in my whole.
That's kind of wild.
I know.
Because I've done it a lot.
Have you? And usually when I do it, it's other people. It's like
I'll go with other folks.
Like in other cities, but
I still like it.
I do too.
I always kind of like. There's a certain point where I'm like, oh yeah, this is fun. You know what I mean?
And it's always more fun than I think it's going to be. Like I was like, that was more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Unless I'm hungover, then like halfway through.
Well, it's also fun like when you talk to other people that aren't in our industry, and they're like, that's what you kind of like your experience when you first started. Like you met these other guys, and you're like, that's what you do every day. Like you can go golf at 1 p.m. Like you meet people in other industries, and they're like envious of the job, the lifestyle, whatever, you know. And I feel like that kind of gives you a little bit of energy boost of like, this is really, I'm really fortunate to do it.
Totally. And I think with our businesses, with the seasonality, I feel like it's hard at first, like you got to ramp everything up, and then once you kind of get to like Derek always says, our summer starts on the 4th of July, and I love that saying. Once you get there, you're just like everything's running. You got your staff in place.
Yeah.
You know, you're only working a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The problem
that's the sweet spot, man.
You end up getting too big, like us, and then you're like
constantly working.
Yeah, now you're like back into a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's like the downside of scaling for those listening.
Yeah.
The early days are fun. You can go the lifestyle route, which is like I think you have, right? Where you enjoy the lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I was that way for the first 10 years of our business.
Yeah.
Or it's like at a certain point, like, do I want to get big and get good? And then you have a job.
I know.
Like a job.
You feel the pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're at a desk all day writing emails, talking to lawyers, and so that's the downside of getting too big. I think, Justin, you're gonna start going through this process pretty soon.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
we'll I try not to, but it's also like if I do continue scaling, I know that that's kind of what's coming with it, you know. Yeah.
You're gonna have a job.
Well,
you're gonna have a job.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how we're ending the episode.
Get too big, you have a job.
And if you get big, you're gonna have a job.
Well, thanks for doing this, Ron.
Yeah,
We'd love
thanks
to
for
have you on like the full podcast.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
For sure. Yeah. Let's do it.
This is just.
This would be a fun intro to that. Yeah.
This is previewing to the mind of Ryan.
That'd be
Awesome. Sounds good, man.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
Nice to see you,
Thanks,
man.
dude.
Yeah.
Appreciate taking the time.
Oh yeah.